Comprehensive reasons Nigeria is having protests. The recent protests in Nigeria have been driven by a combination of long-standing issues and specific incidents that have sparked public outrage. Here is a comprehensive list of reasons why Nigeria is experiencing protests. 1. Police brutality. The protests were initially triggered by widespread anger over the Special Anti-Robbery Squad, SARS, a unit of the Nigerian police force, known for its history of extrajudicial killings, torture, and extortion of civilians. The #EndSARS movement called for the disbandment of SARS and an end to police brutality. 2. Youth unemployment. Nigeria has a high rate of youth unemployment, with many young people struggling to find job opportunities or secure stable employment. The lack of economic prospects has fueled frustration and disillusionment among the youth. 3. Corruption. Corruption is pervasive in Nigeria and has eroded public trust in government institutions. Protesters are demanding accountability from government officials and an end to systemic corruption that hinders development and perpetuates inequality. 4. Poor governance. The perceived failure of the government to address pressing social and economic challenges, such as healthcare, education, and infrastructure, has contributed to a sense of dissatisfaction and disenchantment among the population. 5. Human rights violations. Beyond police brutality, there have been reports of human rights abuses, crackdowns on freedom of expression and peaceful assembly, and violations of civil liberties in Nigeria. Protesters are advocating for respect for human rights and the rule of law. 6. Insecurity. Nigeria has been grappling with various security challenges, including insurgency, banditry, and communal conflicts. The breakdown of law and order in some regions has heightened concerns about safety and stability. 7. Social injustice. Disparities in income distribution, lack of access to basic services, and social inequality have exacerbated grievances among marginalized communities. Protesters are calling for greater social justice and inclusivity. 8. Lack of accountability. There is a perception that government officials are immune to consequences for their actions, leading to a culture of impunity. Demands for transparency, accountability, and good governance have been central to the protest movement. 9. Youth activism. Nigeria's youthful population, particularly tech-savvy and socially conscious young people, have been at the forefront of organizing and participating in protests, using social media and online platforms to mobilize and amplify their voices. These factors have converged to fuel the ongoing protests in Nigeria, highlighting deep-seated issues that need to be addressed through dialogue, reform, and concrete actions to address the legitimate grievances of the Nigerian people. Complete reasons of End Bad Government protest in Nigeria. The call for an end to bad governance in Nigeria is rooted in a multitude of factors that have contributed to public dissatisfaction and unrest. Here are the complete reasons behind the protests demanding an end to bad government. 1. Corruption. Corruption is endemic in Nigeria, permeating various levels of government and public institutions. The diversion of public funds, embezzlement, and bribery have undermined the delivery of essential services, eroded trust in leadership, and perpetuated inequality. 2. Ineffectiveness and incompetence. Many Nigerians believe that government officials have been ineffective in addressing critical issues such as unemployment, poverty, healthcare, education, and infrastructure development. The perception of incompetence and mismanagement has fueled frustration and anger towards the government. 3. Lack of accountability. Government officials often operate with impunity, escaping accountability for corrupt practices, human rights abuses, and other misconduct. The absence of consequences for wrongdoing has bred a culture of impunity and undermined the rule of law. 4. Human rights violations. The government's record on human rights has come under scrutiny, with reports of extrajudicial killings, arbitrary arrests, censorship, and suppression of dissent. Citizens are demanding respect for fundamental rights and freedoms, as well as justice for victims of state-sanctioned violence. 5. Economic hardship. Nigeria's economy has faced challenges, including fluctuating oil prices, currency devaluation, inflation, and high unemployment rates. The lack of economic opportunities and the rising cost of living have placed immense pressure on ordinary Nigerians, exacerbating discontent with the government. 6. Electoral irregularities. Concerns about electoral malpractice, manipulation, and fraud have cast doubt on the credibility and legitimacy of election outcomes in Nigeria. The perceived lack of free and fair elections has undermined democratic principles and eroded public confidence in the electoral process. 7. Youth empowerment. Nigeria has a youthful population, with a significant number of young people facing limited prospects for education, employment, and meaningful participation in governance. Youth activists are demanding greater representation, inclusion, and empowerment in decision-making processes. 8. Social injustice. The unequal distribution of resources, opportunities, and benefits in Nigerian society has deepened social divisions and perpetuated disparities based on class, ethnicity, and region. Calls for social justice and equality have resonated among those marginalized and disadvantaged by systemic injustices. 9. Citizen discontent. Overall, a sense of disillusionment, disenchantment, and alienation from the political establishment has driven Nigerians to mobilize and protest against what they perceive as a failed system of governance. The demand for an end to bad government reflects a broader desire for ethical, accountable, and responsive leadership that prioritizes the welfare and interests of the Nigerian people. These interconnected reasons underpin the protest movement in Nigeria, highlighting the urgent need for structural reforms, transparency, good governance, and ethical leadership to address the root causes of discontent and build a more just and inclusive society. If you like this video, like and share.